Welcome to Game Face Southern Division 1 footy show for round 6, thanks to Community Bank Caulfield Park. My name is Chelsea Ryan and joining me is Dan Lonergan.
G'day Chelsea, it's a great pleasure to have you part of Game Face, the madhouse here. It's wonderful that you've joined us and we look forward to having the Southern Football Show every single week. It's been another big week in Division 1. There's some darn good sides in this competition, some big margins, which is a little bit of a concern, but also some great individual performances as well. So we look forward to having a good look at round 6 and previewing round 7 as well.
Yes, and first up we've got our first game. We had St Paul's McKinnon versus Springvale Districts in a hot contest there. Unfortunately, the Doggies weren't too accurate with their goal kicking in the first half, which allowed Springvale Districts to have that lead by 4 points at three-quarter time. But unfortunately, it was taken away from them. St Paul's McKinnon ran over the top and got a 19-point win.
It's a big win for the Bulldogs. They've been pretty good this year. They're now on 4 and lost 2, and they've got to win games like that to stay in touch with the top 5. They probably weren't rated as highly as some of the other teams that they're even ahead of at the moment, including St Paul's and including Port Melbourne Colts and Dingley. And Dingley, of course, were the premiership favourites and the reigning premiers. So they've done pretty well, and it was another hard-fought win against a really good side who were well coached by Chris Thompson. He brought his team up from second division. They dominated that comp last year. Unfortunately, they didn't get the opportunity to taste premiership success because of COVID, Chelsea. I think they were in a very good position to do so. And they've been a bit disappointed with the last quarter, but for 3 quarters they were right in the mix, Springvale Districts. Jimmy Ziller outstanding for the Dogs with 22 disposals at 100% efficiency. That's a great day. Whilst Matthew O'Brien led the ball winners with 25 touches for the Bulldogs, and he was named among their best. According to Chris Thompson, and he's been very gracious here, he said St Paul's were the better team on the day and deserved to win. My caveat on that is that when you've led for 3 quarters, you're a pretty good side too, and you're not far away, and I think that would be the positive that a good coach like Chris Thompson would take out of that. He also gave credit to 19-year-old Toby Arms, 18 disposals for Springy Districts, also 7 inside 50s, and Jake Kelly in his first game for the club. Good to see these young guys coming through, and Springvale Districts playing some good footy. They're probably just a touch away from the better teams, with St Paul's being one of those, but it was a good game of footy.
Yeah, looks like it. And so our next game, we had St Kilda City welcome back Brownlow medalist Dane Swan. And in good fashion too, out at Bentley Reserve, they got a win by 82 points. Now, it was a good contest at the start in those early stages until the game slipped away from Bentley, missing a lot of chances.
Well, Bentley were in it in the first quarter, but you're right, they were a bit inaccurate in that opening term, and they'd be a bit disappointed with that. But then this St Kilda City team, which has just started, Luke Potts, who's played a lot of footy at under 18 level, played with Frankston, played in the premiership side of Pines and the very strong MP NFL. I mean, he had 36 possessions, 29 of those were uncontested, and there were a lot of handball receives as well, 20. So he's running all day and creating, whether it be off half back or in the middle of the ground, with his ability to use the footy magnificently. We know how good Dane Swan is. Now, one of our colleagues here at Game Face is the great Reese, who was playing for Bentley, and he's taken one of the marks of the year. I believe it was one of the greatest marks you've ever seen. And guess who he's taken it over, Chelsea? He's taken it over Dane Swan. So he can take that to his grave, which we hope won't be for another 40, 50, 60 years, the great man Fuzz. But he's taken a great mark for Bentley. He had 17 possessions as well.
We can count them both as 2 legends.
Yeah, we can count them both as 2 legends. And Dane Swan was outstanding again. He was 100% with his handball efficiency. He had over 30 possessions. And Matty Andrews, who's been a star for Berwick for many, many years in all the competitions they've played in. What a great pickup for them. He had the ball on a string for St Kilda City. And Degois and Aaron Edwards is back playing for St Kilda City after trying out at Deer Park in the Western Region Football League and played 94 league games at North, West Coast and Richmond respectively, and also won a listed medal for Frankston. He kicked 4, Espinoza as well for the St Kilda City, and as usual, they kicked lots of goals. So they're going pretty well. They're equal top on the table with Cranbourne at the moment, 5 wins and 1 loss, and they're going to be pretty hard to beat for Bentley. They'll be trying to stave off relegation as the season continues, having just had the 1 win so far, and that was against the bottom side, East Melbourne.
And we had another red-hot forward line in the game, Dingley taking a big win over Mordialloc.
Yes, that was a great performance by the Dingoes. They are the reigning premiers, but their start to the season, Chelsea, have been a little bit patchy by their own lofty standards. 2 wins and 3 losses, and they just wanted to have a big win They've got this great forward line, as you touched on. Justin Van Nuenen has played a lot of football at a number of different clubs, at a number of different leagues over the years, including Frankston in the VFL. He kicked 6. Michael Dolan got 5. Dan Farmer 4. So it was a big, big day for the Dingley Football Club over Mordialloc, who'd won 3 of 5 going into this game. The best player, though, for the Dingoes was Lucas Walmsley. It was his show on the stat sheet. Walmsley, the man they call Noodles.
I love that
name. Yeah, I do. I wonder why they call him Noodles. He had 37 disposals, 16 ground ball gets, 8 clearances, and 7 inside 50s. That's a perfect day for a midfielder, talking about being prolific. Dylan Gregson fought hard all day for the Bloods down back. He led their disposal count with 20. Now, Brendan Moore, the former Essendon AFL player, played 7 games with the Bombers back in the 80s and early 90s, coaches Mordialloc. They've been going okay. They'd won 3 and lost 2, but now Dingley go ahead of them with a much stronger percentage. As I say, both teams on 3 wins and 3 losses. But Mordy, I think when they come up against the really good sides, are showing that they lack some class. And Dingley just starting to work into their season, and be disappointed with the way they've started. But I think with that strong forward line, they're going to be very, very hard to beat. So a big win by the Dingoes.
And Port Melbourne Colts also had a big win up against East Melbourne, knocking off the Panthers by 94 points. And so there was best on ground by draft prospect Charlie Clark.
Yes, Charlie's with the Sandringham Dragons, a very strong under-18 program that have in recent years been one of the most successful clubs in the under-18 competition in regard to draftees that have been picked up by AFL clubs. And he is one that the AFL recruiters are looking at, so he got an opportunity to have a game for his local club, Port Melbourne Colts, and they certainly needed him, and he was absolutely outstanding. 35 disposals, he put on a show, he kicked 2 goals. So we look forward to seeing how he goes for the rest of the season, and he'll be on draft watch whenever he lines up with the Colts and when he's playing for the Sandringham Dragons. Now, Ricky Newton was the star of the show up forward. Sounds like a rock star. Probably is a rock star. Would have been a rock star on Saturday night. Chelsea, after kicking 8 goals for the Colts in a big win. Good to see Louis Mildenhall playing good footy as well. A friend of mine who's played a lot of wonderful cricket for the South Caulfield cricket team and plays football, obviously, down at Port Melbourne Colts. And his father, Bill, was one of the most respected referees in the old NBL in basketball, and played over 100 games as one of those old-fashioned back pocket players for St Kilda. So a very talented sports person, Louis, with both a cricket bat in hand and a football as well when he's playing footy during the footy season. So big win by the Colts. They needed to have a big win. Again, a little bit like Dingley, one of the fancy chances at the start of the year, Chelsea. They'd won 2 and lost 3 before this game. Needed a big percentage booster, and they get exactly that for East Melbourne. The Panthers haven't won a game. I'd say they're battling with Bentley to avoid relegation. Bentley beat them earlier in the season, so they've got some work to do. But all they can do at this stage is try and be as competitive as they can be, which makes it pretty tough.
Well, talking about the teams and their positions on the ladder, we're bringing you the ladder thanks to Sandy Golf Links. Now, at the top there, we've got Cranbourne. Dan, take us through it.
Yeah, well, Cranbourne, 5 wins, 1 loss. The only loss they had was a round 6 fixture, which was last weekend. And their round 6 fixture was against the Cheltenham Rosellas, and I love that name. And they played on Good Friday. It was a standalone game. The only loss that the Cranbourne Eagles have had so far, Big Mark Holt kicked 7 that day, but they only kicked 10, and they got off to a slow start. So that cost them dearly. But they're on top, 5 wins, 1 loss, 20 points, percentage of 173.27. St Kilda City also 5 wins, 1 loss, but are nearly 30% behind in percentage, 144.94. Cheltenham, 4 wins, 2 losses, 16 points, been described by many people within the comp, those that play, those that watch it a bit more closely than my good self, that they might be the team to beat the Rosellas. 4 wins, 2 losses, 16 points. Their percentage very good, 134.29. St Paul's McKinnon, also 4 wins, 2 losses on 16 points. A very important win on the weekend. Percentage of 127.58. And Dingley now in the top 5, and look out everyone, because they know how to win big games, the Dingoes, especially at the most important part of the season, the business end of the season, the finals. 3 wins, 3 losses, 12 points. They've got a good percentage of 124.75. Outside the top 5 on 12 points, Port Melbourne Colts with a percentage of 105. Then Mordialloc also on 12 points, a percentage of 78. Springvale Districts have been really competitive, as we've said, 8 points, their percentage 84. Bentley 1 win, 5 losses on 4 points, and East Melbourne on the bottom, 11% behind Bentley and without a win after 6 rounds. And Mark Holt leading the goal kicking as well. Chelsea from the Cranbourne Eagles, one of the greats. He's kicked 30.
And what do we reckon, that top 6? I know it's only after round 6, but do you think they're the ones for finals?
Oh, look, I think they're the best sides, and they were probably seen as the sides to beat at the start of the year. Certainly 5 of them. We've spoken about St Paul's McKinnon, the Bulldogs making a really good start to the year to put them in contention, getting those early wins, which means that they'll be in the race for a long, long time. But I wonder whether they'll drop out and Port Melbourne Colts with a little bit more experience, a little bit more talent, will get into the top 5, but then again their form's been a bit spasmodic as well. So there's a long way to go. There are these 8-point games coming up, and St Paul's and Port Melbourne Colts and even Dingley, who I still expect to be there and expect to be right in the mix come finals time, they just want to keep winning. Certainly when you're 2 games ahead on the top of the table like Cranbourne and St Kilda City are, they're sitting pretty, and we think the body of work that Cheltenham have produced and their 4 wins, 2 losses indicates they're one of the best sides in it as well.
Well, let's take a look at round 7 and who they're all facing this coming week.
Thanks to Anytime Fitness, with over 500 plus gyms around Australia, Chelsea. Don't know whether you've ever been to Anytime Fitness. I've never set foot in a gym in my life. I like to run, but I've never picked up a weight in my life. Maybe I should get down and see the guys at Anytime Fitness, with over 500 plus gyms around Australia, anywhere, anytime. Tell us about the games.
So up we have Port Melbourne Colts versus Cheltenham.
Yeah, big game, massive, massive game. Port Melbourne Colts home game, and they need to win games like this. And this has been their issue this year. They haven't been able to beat the really good sides. Cheltenham having a week off, whether it's a good thing or bad thing, I'm not sure. But look, they'll be ready for the contest. I just think the Rosellas are going slightly better than Port Melbourne. They did what they had to do last week, a big win over the lowly East Melbourne. But I expect that Cheltenham might be a little bit too good for Port Melbourne Colts, but it should be a really good match.
And next up we have Cranbourne Eagles versus Mordialloc.
I think Cranbourne Eagles will be too strong for Mordialloc. I just don't think that Mordialloc have got the defenders, even though Dylan Gregson's a pretty good player. And ironically, he was a teammate with Mark Holt back in 2019 in the MPNFL with the Coringal Football Club. So they know each other pretty well. Gregson played at full back, Holt played at full forward. So that'll be a wonderful battle within the rest of the battles out on the football field between Cranbourne Eagles and Mordialloc. But the Eagles, just too strong for me, and I think they'll win quite comfortably.
And next up, playing at their home ground at the Peanut Farm, St Kilda City versus St Paul's McKinnon.
It's a wonderful name for a football ground. It gets a bit chopped up in the middle of winter, doesn't it? I remember doing a women's match a couple of years ago between St Kilda City and the Eastern Devils, coached by the former North Melbourne star John Law, former captain there. They called him Gentleman Johnny Law because he was very good at issuing hip and shoulders, which in those days, in the 80s and 70s, Chelsea, you got away with. You don't get away with them nowadays in the AFL. But it was a wet Sunday afternoon and the ground was just caked in mud. But hopefully it's in good condition. St Kilda City, a very good side. St Paul's McKinnon, a good side as well. We've spoken about how well they've started this season, but I think St Kilda City, with their stars, will be a little bit too good for a very impressive St Paul's McKinnon Bulldogs outfit.
And another game we have is Dingley taking on Bentley.
Percentage booster for Dingley. Full credit to the Bentley Demons. They're battling hard, but they don't have the class, they don't have the talent, I would have thought, to keep up with Dingley, especially with that 3-pronged forward attack led by Justin Van Unen. So I expect the Dingoes to continue winning and be right in the premiership mix.
And then lastly, we have Springvale Districts versus East Melbourne.
Well, Springy District can stay in the race for a spot in the top 5. Now, I didn't mention them earlier because they've only won 2 games. Their percentage not brilliant, but as I said, they've been competitive in most games, and they'll be looking for a percentage booster against East Melbourne. East Melbourne will win a game. I don't think it'll be against Springvale Districts. I think they're just a little bit better than East Melbourne are at the moment. But we wish the Panthers all the best in their endeavours to try and win some games as the season continues, Chelsea.
Well, that's it from us. Thank you very much for watching.
And always, and it's great to have you part of the team, Chelsea. What do we always say at the end of a broadcast here at Game Face? You've got to be doing this every single day. Get your game face on.